So, why on earth would you try to rewrite a 2,500-year-old classic on strategy? That's the big question. And in this explainer, we're going to walk through the core argument for why the art of war desperately needs a modern reimagining, especially now, in an age of AI and machine speed conflict. This is a central idea from our new book on the topic, so let's just dive right in.
This right here, this single idea, is really the foundation for our entire discussion. It perfectly captures that modern tension between our incredibly powerful new tools and the timeless, messy reality of human judgment. And as we're about to see, telling the difference between speed and wisdom, well, that matters now more than ever.
All right, so here's how we're going to break this down. We'll look at the timeless temptation of technology, then the unique seduction of machine speed. After that, we'll ground ourselves in war's unchanging human nature, which will lead us to why we need a rewrite, not a relic. And we'll wrap it all up with the irreplaceable role of human judgment. First up, the timeless temptation. This is that age-old belief, this dream that our next big invention will finally, once and for all, solve the chaos and the fog of war. It's a really powerful illusion, and one we seem to fall for time and time again.
And you can see the pattern so clearly here. Gunpowder, railroads, air power, computers, every single one was promised as a revolution that would make war predictable, and every single one failed to do that. Sure, they changed the conditions of war, but they never got rid of the fundamental human realities like fear, politics, and pure friction. And today, with AI and autonomy, that same old temptation is back. It's just wearing a new digital uniform.
So that leads us right to our second point, the seduction of speed. Now, this isn't just about things moving faster on a battlefield. It's about a much deeper risk, the danger that comes from machine-assisted judgment, where incredible speed and mountains of data create this very convincing but very false sense of certainty.
And you can see how this pipeline to potential disaster gets built. The dashboards are glowing with data, the models are neatly ranking all your options, a clean recommendation just arrives on your screen. Everything looks and feels so competent, so rational. And that's exactly how it becomes so easy to make a catastrophic decision while feeling completely confident.
And this is the end result. The machine's output has this kind of counterfeit authority. It encourages this age-old mistake, just spoken in a modern dialect. The belief that because something is fast and quantitative and computer-assisted, well, it must be true. And that is a huge trap for even the most serious, well-intentioned leaders.
So what's the antidote to all this technological seduction? It's remembering war's unchanging, deeply human nature. It doesn't matter how advanced our systems get. At the end of the day, they are still operating inside a human drama that they simply can't fully comprehend.
And this distinction is absolutely crucial. An automated system is built to deal with a static target, basically a collection of data points, but your actual enemy, that's a thinking will. They adapt, they lie, they set traps, they do the one thing your model didn't expect. And mistaking one for the other is a pretty fundamental error.
And that's because these are the permanent, unchangeable facts of any conflict. Things like fear, morale, deception, logistics, just having imperfect knowledge of what's going on. These are the human, real-world factors that actually shape what happens. No algorithm is going to predict them, and no technology is going to repeal them.
Which brings us to the whole point of this project, creating a rewrite, not just a relic. The goal here isn't to just, admire Sun Tzu's wisdom from a safe distance. It's to reforge it, to make it practical and truly usable in the world we are actually living in right now.
And the difference here is so important. A commentary, it just explains what an old text meant back in its own time. It kind of preserves it in amber. A rewrite, on the other hand, takes the core concepts, like deception or knowing your enemy, and rebuilds them for our modern conditions. It makes them functional again. And let's be honest, that modern context is radically different. The battlefield isn't just land, sea, and air anymore, is it? It's cyberspace, it's financial systems, it's media ecosystems, and the civilian supply chains that we all rely on every single day. Timeless wisdom needs a new language to navigate this new terrain.
So, all of this leads to our final, and maybe most important point, the absolute necessity of keeping human judgment firmly in the loop. This is all about the irreplaceable role of what we call command. And this is what command truly means in our era. It's not just about picking the top option from a list that a machine generates. It is the uniquely human burden of making a call when the data is patchy, when every single one of your options is ugly,
and when you have to have the wisdom to recognize that your most advanced system might be confidently, catastrophically wrong.
Because ultimately it all boils down to this single core principle. You cannot outsource the weight of these decisions, that moral and strategic burden, to a piece of software or an algorithm without facing severe, and I mean severe, consequences. Accountability has to remain human.
And so that leaves us with this final critical question to think about. As our machines get smarter and faster and more capable, we have to decide, consciously and deliberately, what human faculties, what forms of judgment, wisdom, and moral reasoning are we going to absolutely refuse to surrender?